Hi, I'm Nicole Kemper. I'm a writer, actor, and filmmaker living in Atlanta, Georgia. This is 50 Foot Woman, and I've committed to shooting at least one roll of motion picture film per month. I wanted to give you an update on my Super 8 short film. So a while back, months ago actually, in May, we shot a short film on Super 8. We did record sync sound. I have another video about the pre-production process if you want to go check that out. For those of you that are like, wait, you can't shoot sync sound with Super 8. I did a whole series of videos on kind of how to hack that situation. And it does require a little bit of work, especially on the front end when you're cutting, when you're syncing and everything. But I'm not going to get into that here. So the short version is that we used a Nikon R10 Super 8 camera. We did run sync sound. We had lavalier mics and a boom. I did want to give you some updates about how the production went, how I felt about it, whether any of the camera tests or any of the planning we did in beforehand had any impact on the shoot. And so I just that's what this video is going to be about. So the final cartridge count for the shoot was 7 cartridges. As you may or may not remember if you've seen the previous video, the plan was to shoot 5 cartridges. It is a 3-page script, which amounts to somewhere around 2.5 to 3 minutes of screen time. Truthfully, I think I could have gone with 8 cartridges. We did not run out of film, and we actually had a little bit of film at the end, which we had a little fun with. But I feel like there are some instances where I would have liked to have done another take or tried something a different way. And in the interest of not running out of film, I kind of kept it to like 2 takes. Some of the longer scenes where I knew we weren't going to be really cutting to much else, I did do like 3 takes. But I think one more cartridge would have made everything really comfortable. So I think my initial estimate for the shooting ratio was 3-to-1. And had we gone with 8 cartridges, that would bring us up to about 5-to-1. So next time I would just go with just a little bit more film. Again, we didn't run out, but I think it would have been nice to have just a little bit more flexibility. The planning that we did in pre-production was incredibly useful. I did a whole video about this, but we did some camera tests with the actors, just so I could get used to some of the manual features on the camera, and just specifically with the actors that we were working with, what different lighting situations are adding light or taking away light or adding a reflector, or so I knew we were going to be shooting outside, and so you only have so much control over that. And so we did some camera tests early on to see how that sort of outdoor lighting was going to impact the actors that we had, which was incredibly helpful. So I have to say, totally worth it. We actually, on the day of the shoot, only got a few shots off before a thunderstorm rolled in, and we had to stop shooting for about an hour. And so having the camera test really helped me feel more confident about my choices. And of course, there was lots of other planning that went into it, creating a shot list, working with the actors beforehand, doing some blocking rehearsal, meeting with all the crew people. So all of those things together, I think, really helped us out on the day of the shoot when we had to stop shooting for an hour. We did not go over. We were still able to end our day on time. I don't feel like we didn't have to cut any shots. We didn't really sacrifice anything. And so having that all that planning helped us to move more efficiently. I'm always going to recommend and encourage planning in the process of making a short film. But I definitely think given the curveball that we were thrown, it helped out big time. And so I'm really grateful that we put in the extra effort to do that. So we did shoot for, of course, this includes that hour that we were not shooting, and it includes about a 45-minute lunch break. We did shoot for about 8 hours. We were shooting outdoors, so we didn't have all the lighting gear and stuff really that would have caused, I think, setup and takedown to take a bit longer. And we were working with a very small crew. But so that was kind of our schedule. And again, that was for a 3-page script. I'm sure there are a lot of other people that could have shot that faster. I like to take my time. We weren't wasting time. We moved very efficiently, but I don't like to rush, in the sense that I want to have time to talk to the actors. I want to have time to discover things. So even with all that planning, you do want to have a little bit of room to discover. And of course, when you're shooting on film, we had to spend more time, checking exposure, checking the focus, and all kinds of things that we were trying to be a little really meticulous about, because, you don't know what you're going to get until you get it back from the lab. So you're trying to make sure that everything is set properly, and maybe if it's going to be a complicated shot, maybe or a bit of business, or maybe like an extended scene, we would run a rehearsal before rolling, because of course you don't want to roll on a rehearsal when you're working with film, because that's just kind of a waste of film. So all of those things required that we needed definitely a little bit more time and the freedom to take our time. So the shoot, just a general note, the shoot went really well. I'm really grateful to the team that I had. We were a really small but mighty crew. So both of the actors and the small crew that we had. So we had myself, my camera assistant, Aaron, Brandon, who was doing sound, and Phoebe, who came on as a production assistant. So we did add a production assistant after the camera test. It was kind of apparent that it would be really good to have an extra set of hands on there. And Ray was our production coordinator, so she dealt with the logistics and making sure that the day was going to run smoothly, and of course dealing with making sure that lunch was going to come on time and all of that stuff. And so she was a really essential part of things, especially with that big break that we had to take in the middle of the day because of the weather. I had such a good time. I think maybe some of the most fun I've ever had on set. I always have a really good time on set and have been really lucky to work with really great teams on previous film shoots. I think there was something a little elevated about this for me, because I was directing, but also behind the camera. Usually that's something that I hire someone to do, and I really treasure that relationship with a cinematographer. And I will say that being behind the camera, while I was very nervous about it, and certainly I acknowledge that my skill level as a camera person certainly is not where at the skill level of other folks that I've worked with in the past. That's a part of the filmmaking process that I'm still, very relatively new at. So I have a lot more experience directing and acting than I do behind the camera. But there was something just really exhilarating about the whole process. And I found myself feeling competent, decisive. I really enjoyed the process, and it's definitely something that I would like to do again. It felt really good being behind the camera and directing that it didn't feel like too much. Again, I think the planning really helped, and having a good team really helped. So I think we all just had a really great day, and it was really fun, and it's something that I would love to do again. Because we shot on film and we were sending the footage off to the lab to be developed, I did not see the footage for about 2 weeks. So that included the time to ship off the film, for it to arrive at the lab, for the lab to process the film, scan it, and get it back to me. And so there was about 2 weeks when I didn't see the film. And, I think that's really good. Obviously, one of the bonuses of shooting on digital is you have like immediate access to the footage, but maybe that's not, even when I'm shooting working with digital, I've kind of come to a point where I sort of have a rule where I don't touch the footage for like at least a week. I think it's important to get that distance between your expectations or your experience of how things went on set versus like the footage that you actually got, because inevitably there's always going to be some surprises or some challenges, or maybe some things that you're like, wow, like this, maybe this shot isn't going to work, or maybe this shot, I didn't expect this particular moment to come out like this, and I'm really excited that it did. But in any case, having the space of separating yourself from those expectations, I think, is really important before you begin the editing process. So I really liked that 2-week buffer. I had an opportunity to kind of bask in the good feelings of enjoying being on set. And by the time the footage came, I was like, okay, I'm ready. So once we got the footage back, I was really pleased with the majority of what we shot. Of course, there's always going to be some problems. So I wanted to point out a couple of things, a couple little challenges that popped up once I began cutting the footage and looking through it. There were a few shots where there was a boom in the shot. So we did have a sound person. We had the lavs. We had these Zoom Bluetooth lavaliers, which I'm going to talk more about in a minute. But so we were running sort of the two lavs on a lav on each actor, and the boom. And there was a few shots where the boom was present in the shot. Most of the time we were able to catch it. And it was really on me to catch that boom because nobody else can see the frame but me. And so that's, I think, one of the challenges of this is that I think I've grown accustomed, and most of the people I work with have grown accustomed to having some kind of video assist where everybody can get a look at the frame. There's more eyes on it. There's more of a chance to catch anything like a boom shadow or a boom in the shot. Usually the video assist, you've got a nice big screen. Obviously I'm looking through the viewfinder of this 8mm camera that's relatively small, and so sometimes it's easy to miss things. So that is a challenge. So I think certainly I'll just have to be more careful next time. The other thing I thought about was I have seen some videos online of people creating video taps. And if you're not really sure what a video tap is, don't worry about it too much. I'm planning on making a video on it in the future. But essentially there's like finding a way to attach camera to the viewfinder so that you can then output that to a monitor. I've seen some videos online where people have been successful with that, with 16mm cameras that don't come with a video tap, and some 8mm as well. So that's something I'm gonna pursue in the future. But I think having a video tap and being able to have other eyes on the monitor would help. Similarly, we did have one shot where there was some equipment visible, or the craft table visible. I was able to use part of it because the actor's body was blocking it for the most part, for the part of the shot that I needed. So I got very lucky. But there are other parts of the shot that I would have liked to use that I was not able to due to the craft table being visible. And again, this is just something that had there been more eyes on it, because I was trying to be very, very careful checking the frame. But you know, sometimes you just miss stuff. And so that's why we have things like script supervisors and other eyes on the camera to make sure that everything is looking good. And so again, I think a video tap, if it's possible to create one and add it to my Nikon R10, I think that would help out a lot. We did have one instance where we rolled out on a shot that I would have liked to have used. I was very meticulous in kind of, we were taking notes. So even though there was not like a script suit per se, my camera assistant, Aaron, and at times I think the production assistant were taking notes, and we were keeping track of the footage and how much feet we had shot. And so we were always very aware of when we were getting close to the end of a roll. And so in this case, we had like an insert of something that we wanted to do. There was an action that one of the actors did where she sort of kicks the dresser and the other actor reacts to it. And it was something that we had done in rehearsal that was pretty funny. And so I knew we were towards the end of the roll, and I thought we could squeeze out that one insert, and unfortunately we rolled out right before we actually got it. So there was a moment where I was like, ooh, maybe if I just get one more, because I still have the dresser in my car in my van for a while, and I was like, well, if I get another roll of film, like maybe we could just do like an insert real quick and nobody will even know because it'll be a real tight close-up. And then I was thinking to myself, you have to kind of ask yourself, is this one shot worth $100? And in this case, I decided the answer was no. So we're just gonna have to do without, but you know, these things happen. There were a couple of shots where we did sort of roll out before we could get the tail slate in. And of course the tail slate was a really integral part of making sure that the audio was gonna sync, but those, it did make syncing a lot more difficult when we did not have that tail slate. Okay, so some sound challenges. I'm gonna get a little bit more into the detail of working with the sound in post. But I will say that of course, the boom picked up the sound of the camera much more noticeably than the lavs did. So in general, the sound from the lavalier, I think, was better. There were a couple of times where we really needed the boom, like when there's a moment where the actors hug and the lav, of course, gets a little, you get a little mic noise, you get a little muffling. And so a boom was really needed in that case. I had a great sound person on my team, Brandon, who wanted to make sure that we had everything covered. And so I'm really glad that we had the boom as well. Also, of course, and we had the boom in the shot again, sometimes not anyone's fault but my own, because I'm the only one who's looking in the frame. Of course, if there's no boom in the shot. So it does kind of lend itself to, well, can we get away with using lavs more? Again, if we had a video tap, I think that this would help as well. I will say, regarding these Bluetooth lavaliers, they sound good. They were an enormous pain to work with. And Brandon, really was a real champ trying to make this work. But the only way you can turn these on without having to turn them on, like go and turn on the lavalier for every take. The only way that you can start the recording without physically touching it is to use this app. Which I'm using right now because I use these to record my videos. And when you're close to the phone that has the app or the device that has the app, it's works pretty well. It's a huge pain to work with two of them because you can't label them separately, so it's hard to know which one you're working with. You can't look at them at both at the same time. You have to close the app to switch between both of them, and the app got disconnected a lot, and it was a huge pain. So I would not probably use these again for a film shoot. So what I'll say is I'm contemplating how useful a boom is for every scene. I think there are certain times where you do need the boom and the lavs are just not going to cut it. But definitely the sound quality in terms of not getting as much camera noise, way better on the lavs. And I think in the future, rather than use those things, which this great for what I'm doing right now, which is an interview. Very simple, not bad to use at all. Very convenient, especially when you're like me and you're the only one here. You don't have a sound person, you're running everything. But for on set, I think I would just invest in better lavs. And I do have lavs. They're not great. They're okay. They don't sound as good as these, and that's why we didn't use them. But I think I would just invest in some better quality lavs that can be controlled from a recording device, as opposed to these Zoom ones. They just weren't great for shooting a narrative film. They just weren't. So I didn't really discuss this, but I did make a Barney to put over the camera to kind of lessen the sound. I am planning on doing a video just about this as well. We used it a little bit. We didn't use it as much as I would have liked. And part of that was because I think I just need to work on the design of it a little bit. My main concern was that when it was on, I had trouble accessing certain parts of the camera, but mostly I was worried about it bumping the Nikon R10. There's a little lever attached to the focus ring, and I was worried about it bumping the lever and messing up the focus. And I think I just need to spend a little bit more time kind of working with the design of that Barney. When we did use it, it did make a big difference. So I definitely would like to get one working that is a better fit. But I was just really concerned about knocking things out of focus, and so we just didn't use it as much as we probably should have. So to sum up, shooting a short film on Super 8 had some unique challenges, but it was totally worth it. It was really fun, had a blast. Planning and doing the camera test were really essential, so I'm really glad that we did those things. Being behind the camera and directing was really invigorating, and I am really, while I'm very aware of my shortcomings as a film shooter, I certainly have a lot more experience directing and writing and acting than I do shooting. I'm eager to continue learning. And I had such a good time doing it. I'd really love to do it again and just, you know, continue to have some patience with myself and, you know, what my level of skill is regarding working with the camera, but how you don't get better unless you keep doing it, right? So this was a really good sort of testing ground for this whole thing. If I was going to do something that was a little bit more complicated, or even shooting indoors, if I were shooting interiors, there's some more crew that I would add to the team, and that of course would be a gaffer and grip at least, so someone to deal with lighting, because I do a little bit of lighting. I set up the lights for my videos. It's not quite the same thing. I'm interested in learning more about lighting, but I know that that's really like a really sort of weak area for me in terms of my knowledge. So definitely having somebody to be to take care of all that would be important, because of course you want the film to look great. Having an AD would be good. We did okay with that one. Like, it wasn't a big deal, but ADs are really important, and making sure that everyone knows what the plan is and everything's going smoothly and everybody's working safely, and just keeping the day going. And so when there's no AD, like, I become the person that has to do that. And so it would be nice to have like someone else taking care of that, so I can really like focus on the camera and directing and the actors. A production designer, of course, we were outside. We had minimal props and things. I picked the script because I knew we had like sort of minimal props and sets and things. But certainly, especially if we were, if we were shooting interiors, if we were doing something that, required a bit more in terms of the design of the set and the props and things, adding a production designer and art department would be essential. And then just adding like, again, if I can get a video tap figured out, adding a script supervisor, somebody to just keep an eye on those things and making sure everything's going to cut together. And that would take a little bit of pressure off of me in that sense. And also just watching for continuity errors or equipment in the shot or booms and things like that. I'm planning to invest in some better lavs. I'm planning to experiment with a video tap. I'm going to keep working on a camera Barney that would be good at dampening the sound of the camera while also, not be too cumbersome and bumping this focus. So those are all things that I'll be working towards for the next time that I do this. I have been working with the footage, so I've been cutting it. I did, work with the audio, and so I am going to do a follow-up video on the post-production process of working with Super 8 footage and sync sound. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, I hope that you'll stick around and subscribe to the channel. This channel is Critical Crop Top Films, which is my production company, and all of the videos for this series are in the 50 Foot Woman playlist. Okay, so get out there, get a group of your friends together, make a movie, and let's shoot more film, you guys.